Morning. Those of you who like to see a crisp screen will love this. Yeah, this morning I have cleaned my lens. I have turned the lights on. Let's make it better. Let's enhance sound. Right, I have enhanced everything that can be enhanced this morning. Those of you who are production freaks should have a field day today on this one. Good morning. How do you do? This video is one that I'm remaking. It was a reshare, but as has happened with a lot of my videos recently, the downloads are not somehow successfully posting with video on a lot of them. The reshares are not resharing with video. Detachment, not indifference, is a video that I've made before, and I hope to make it again with new dimensions for you. Detachment, not indifference. Let's start with a story. Somebody was having this conversation with me about my career and the fact that I said I have devoted myself to the basic limits. I'm in the classroom, no other frills, and I have literally ruined my own career. I have. A career which was supposed to grow and progress in particular directions has not grown and is not progressing. And the person says, why are you so indifferent to it? Yeah, those are reshares. I need to figure out what is wrong with them. But until I do, be patient with me. If you see the title, you should actually search on Facebook again. You would find the original, which was recorded with sound. Those were the downloads which are resharing. I don't know if the problem was during the download or in the reshare that the sound is affected. I've not had time to delve deeply enough to find a reason. But yeah, if you see the title, just search that same title on Facebook, you will see the original and you will be able to catch the sound. Yeah? Okay. Why are you so indifferent? She says, you have ruined your career. I'm like, yeah, I did so purposefully. I have been aware of it happening. I am witness to the process. Why are you so indifferent? I don't know what's wrong with you. You didn't used to be like this. And I was explaining to her, look, it is a clinical process, what I'm doing. It's actually purposeful in most of the occurrences. It's purposeful. I purposefully decided that I was done with the rat race. I purposefully decided that I wasn't pushing, especially in my current dispensation, I wasn't pushing to get nothing else. I figured out that the promotions that are available do not pay nearly enough for the time I will invest, and that it is better for me to simply do a job at school, in the classroom, and then come home and run a business and do some side gig, and I will make much more money. Besides, for me, I've been there, done that. Most of the things that you are supposed to take off, go into management, do this, lead a strategy, I've done that. Been there, done that. It's already on my CV multiple times. My CV will give you whiplash when you read it. And I get people asking me loads of questions about it, actually, as it is. Why is it that you have such breadth? What made you... Okay. So I am aware of the places I'm not stepping into, and I'm doing so consciously. And the person says, I am indifferent. I'm not indifferent. I am detached. I am detached emotionally. I am detached because I am undergoing a clinical process. I have already thought about it logically. I have already made peace with what is going to happen. I know what is to come. I know the lows I will have to sink to. And I know that this is something which is contrary to the career builders playbook. So the career builders will see what I'm doing and they are heartbroken about what I'm doing. And they are surprised that I am not crying about it. I am, and that's the difference between detachment. Detachment is when you are aware of an emotional journey. that you can undergo. Detachment is when you think about that journey logically, and then you make peace with that journey logically. You understand what is to come. Nothing is a surprise. You know what is to come. And you understand, you accept what is to come. There is acceptance in detachment. You accept what is to come. When I decided to step all the way back to the classroom, I was very aware that I was making myself fodder for insecure people to play with. People who had been insecure around you for a while, when they find themselves in positions where they can toy with you, cannot resist. They will toy with you. So when I was making that decision, I knew that I was putting myself in the firing line for some people to toy with me. And so when I found myself the toy of these people, it did not surprise me. It was no shock whatsoever, because I anticipated it. I knew it was to come. But I had made peace with it. I had explained it to myself. I had come to acceptance to it, because I know it is necessary for me to get to my next step. I cannot have a job which is strategic and have anything left over to come back and build my business. Thank you, Thelma. Thank you. Thank you so much, sis. Yes. And in a month and a half, I finally graduate. More than 1.5 years after the award was made. As for me and my timelines, yeah, I decided that I needed to have the strategic brain after work. I need some of my passions intact. I need my life force intact, so that I can focus on building particular things in particular ways. Because again, I had made acceptance of the fact that promotions alone right now will not bring me the financial freedom that I need. And I had to sit down and figure out that financial freedom is actually my ultimate destination. Yeah? Right now, financial freedom is the most important thing to me. I've been there, done that. I've had titles, empty titles, titles that brought substance, and so on. But in fact, I have figured out the substance that the titles brought never really broke me free. And so the titles are not where I want to dwell. I would like to work on the things that actually break me free. And I have figured that if I do my business and I position my business well, I can break free in that way. If I can break free in my business, then it makes sense for me to focus on my business. In order to focus on my business, I need to have the space, the brain space. I need to have the capacity. I need to have the clear head. And the only way in my life right now where I can afford that clear head is if I take off all the strategic decision making and focus on mundane. The mundane is something I can do with my eyes closed. Turning up to a classroom and teaching a good lesson, a very good lesson, an outstanding lesson for students to learn. Building relationships with students that make them want to learn. Those things. And no, I'm not saying that I do a substandard job. I do a phenomenal job. I dare say so myself. There aren't many people who can do my job and do it at that level and tell me they do better. Regardless of the fanfare, regardless of the drama that a lot of people do, I will do it in my mundane, and I will excel beyond what a lot of the fanfare and drama can do. So I do a good enough job so that I can sleep at night, not because anybody sees it or anybody rewards it or whatever. This is me. At this stage, all these things are internal. They don't even have any external connotations whatsoever. I do a good job so I can sleep well at night. But after I have done a good job so I can sleep at night, I also want to come back home and have strategy left in me to think, energy left in me to do. And so I've made these decisions around my career, and I am clinical in the process, and so I am very emotionally detached. Not indifferent, emotionally detached. Sometimes you look, indifference will mean that you don't even have the urges, and you don't know. I'm not indifferent. I'm not unaware. When the snakes hiss, I hear the hiss. But I hear the hiss and I tell myself, well, that's all they can do, hiss. So let them hiss. Make sure I am away from a bite. As for hissing, it never did any harm. Let them hiss has been my position. So I let them do their hissing, and whilst they hiss, I focus on moving myself away into spaces that serve me. And the person says, that is indifference. No, darling, that's not indifference. That is detachment. Why is detachment important? Detachment is really important on journeys that are tough. Why? Because anything that is tough has an emotional attachment to it. There is an emotional element to it. And if you are human and you have emotions, those emotions will present themselves. The trick here is, do you let the emotions rule you? Do you let the emotions direct you? Do you find ways to manage the emotions? And the process of learning to manage the emotions is detachment. Detachment. When you are at the point of being upset by somebody, you tell yourself, stop girl, hold on. Who is actually upsetting you? Does that person qualify as someone who should upset you? And if you decide a person is unqualified to offend you, to upset you, to rile you, you have the internal recalibration of what would have been upset. You recalibrate. You recalibrate. And you adjust. And you halt what would have been the natural process of upset. And you do so by logic. That is detachment. Detachment is when you give yourself emotional distance from certain things so that you are able to make decisions with clarity. That is detachment. And it is very necessary on any difficult journey. On any long, difficult journey, you get tired. You get tired. It gets to you. It can get to you. And because you know that it can get to you, you find the ways through which it can get to you, and you block those ways deliberately. Sometimes you find yourself already en route to upset, and you pause that process manually. You bypass your reflexes to get to a position. That is emotional detachment. I was talking to somebody again, and the person says, well, you know, a young woman will take your husband from you. I looked at her deadpan. She was waiting for an emotional response. She didn't get one. And then, as usual, when people don't get what they want out of you, they start reeling. Well, you don't love your husband. I said, no, darling. I do love my husband, but I also do recognize he is an adult. He is an agentic adult, and he can make decisions whenever he wants, and he can live with the consequences of that decision. And I'm willing to let him. If he decides a younger girl is better for him, and he goes for the younger girl, well, he leaves me in a position to decide whether I want to disrespect myself to remain, or I want to respect myself to remove. He makes his position, I get to decide, and I've made peace with either position. I've made peace with it. If I find that I have no respect for myself and I need to hang on, I've already made peace with that. I've made peace with that. And if I find that I am capable of self-respect the way I would hope to, and I respect myself enough to remove, which I suspect would be my position, I've made peace with that. Will people call me selfish? They probably would. But those people would be laughable because they would forget that the ultimate selfish person is the one who brought us to that point in the first place. And for that reason, you see, those people don't qualify to make that decision for me. I don't care what they think. Because if they can disregard the person who took the initial action and they can side and call me selfish, then they are stupid people. And I have no respect for stupid people. I have no desire to subject to stupid people. And so I've made peace. I've made peace with either position that I find myself able to adopt. And so no, I was explaining to her, no, I don't have time to be monitoring my husband's phone calls. Phone monitoring is a full-time job. Nobody's paying me to do it. I ain't doing it. Am I checking this and checking? No, I will wait. When information comes to my lap, I will act because I feel very capable of acting in real time. I don't need to put bridges in advance. Well, doesn't that mean you don't love your husband? No, honey. That means I love my husband very well, as much as I love myself. And I respect my brain. Flori, how are you doing? And I respect my brain. And I believe in my abilities to respond adequately in real time. So I don't need compensates. I don't need early onset compensates. No, we will wait and we will decide. You are emotionally unavailable, she says. It's not that I am emotionally unavailable. I am detached. If you ask my husband, he will tell you I am emotionally present. I am very present because I do not accept to live life substandard. I am present. I am full on. Full on. When I engage with my all. When I disengage with everything too. Whatever position I decide to adopt, I adopt that position with fidelity. With everything I have. With everything I am. If I choose to love you, I'm loving you with all I have. If I can be bothered to hate you, you best know that I will hate you with everything I have. And it's the ability to actually see the humor in this, even as we discuss this very difficult topic, that makes people think that I am unfeeling. It's not that I'm unfeeling. I am detached. What will be, if I cry about it in advance or not, it will still be. What will not be, will not be. So why am I preempting to cry until it happens? That is detachment. That is emotional distance. When you are able to achieve emotional distance, you are able to make clinical decisions, logical decisions, decisions that are not based on just what your feelings are taking you through. Because feelings are fickle. They change. And they don't always take the evidence into consideration. Feelings do not consider. Feelings do not consider. And because feelings do not consider, if you dwell on feelings to make your decisions, you make stupid decisions. You make regrettable decisions. And so if you are interested in making decisions that are logic-based, you need to learn emotional distance. You need to learn emotional distance, aka dissociation. Yeah. Detachment. You remove yourself from places where situations want to attach and confine, so that you have the liberties to consider and decide. That's what detachment is. It's not that you are indifferent. No, it's actually because you care. You care deeply about the decisions you make. You are bothered about the outcomes. You don't want to get a foolish stance because your heart has got in the way. The heart is not your thinking device, your brain is. And so removing yourself from your heart, removing your heart from situations, and placing your head firmly at the heart of decision making, well, that is detachment. And that is a much better place to place yourself than the feeling mealy ones that we do. No. That's how foolish decisions are made. That's how regrettable decisions are made. If you don't want regrettable decisions, well, you will have to go through a whole different mechanism. And this is the mechanism. Kafui, Eze, and Anapame, Jacqueline, Thelma, Grace, you are welcome to this feed. I have become more detached as I have aged. I think there is a detachment that happens naturally with aging. But I have become even more detached as I have received training in emotional intelligence. As I have undergone emotional intelligence training. As I have learned the logic for sound decision making. As I have become a student of the mechanisms by which we make a lot of these decisions, and I have realized the tomfoolery of the natural processes most people undergo, I have naturally become very detached. I remember talking to my daughter just before she left, and she was telling me that her regret from her childhood was that I worked too hard. And I looked at my little girl, I'm like, little girl, you have had an amazing life. Yes or no? She's like, yes. That's what we wanted to give you, an amazing life. And working too hard is the cost of that life that you and I both don't regret. And I could see her observe me keenly. That girl is very intelligent. She went very quiet and she was watching me very keenly. Yeah. The cost of the life that we both wanted for you, and you are very grateful you received, is the price I paid. I did not have any problems paying the price. I paid it and I made peace with it. I have no regret. I have absolutely no regret for the choices we made and the outcomes that you have enjoyed. When you have your own children, please try and do better. I have tried to do better than my mom. I think I have. And you continue. But I've given you everything I have. I couldn't have given you any more. I said that to her. She went off, the conversation finishes. A while later, much later, she comes back to me and she says, you know, Mom, when I talk to you and I hear the way you think about these things, the more I thought about it, the more selfish my comment seemed to me, the more ungrateful I seemed. But then I realized how that did not seem to affect you. You did not take that emotional baggage on at all. You were straight up with it. I'm like, yeah, I'm emotionally detached. I'm emotionally detached. And I will analyze what you give me with logic. That's all I do. And I make peace in places where I need to make peace. And I come to acceptance. Emotional detachment. I just realized when I had that conversation with my daughter that if we had had that conversation even a decade ago, that would have taken me down a spiral, because a decade ago, I hadn't quite made peace. At that time, I still had hang-ups about the amount of work I was working, the things that I wasn't doing. But then I sit down now and I think, no, that even when I was working crazy, I spent every second I could with the children. If I could travel with the children in the car, I took them. If a person wanted me to come and work for them, my requirement was very simple. My children come or I don't come. And so I asked them. Many of the places where I tutored, the children were in the car, the children were well entertained whilst I worked, because that was my requirement. That was my requirement. I would take the children to parks. We would go to the park and I would sit in the park. The children will have the freedom to go to the activities in the park. They would have the freedom of doing the activities in the park whilst I sat. I was just recently pointing out to my daughter, does she remember that I would take them to the park and I would sit down with my iPad and the books? And my daughter, yeah, Mom, you were reading. No, I wasn't reading. I was marking, or I was researching. I was writing maybe a master's thesis or something. I was studying for something. I was getting ready for an exam. I took you to the park because you needed to be at the park. No, I could not afford to be sitting in the park idle, watching you, so I didn't. But did you miss out on going to the park because I was busy? No, you did not. You got the best of all the worlds. Yes, you did. Well, I have no regrets. I have made peace. I have absolutely no regrets. She's like, that is incredible, Mommy. That is so good. Yeah, I went and thought about it and I realized what I said was irresponsible. But I was very grateful to see that my irresponsible utterances did not seem to destabilize your balance. That you already had mechanisms for managing this and your response was spot on, Mom. Right? Yeah, that's detachment, and it comes with emotional maturity. I am aware that I am the parent and I'm the adult. My daughter is supposed to be an adult, but she's a very young adult. She's still not in control of her utterances, and yes, she gets in her feelings about things, and sometimes her memory of certain things is clouded. Her recall of some of the events are clouded. They are not very accurate. So guess what? Guess who is supposed to be the adult? It's me. And what does an adult do? An adult processes. An adult receives. An adult lets the child be the child. You receive what the child gives. You process. You accept what needs to be accepted. And you discard what needs to be. And that's what we do. And you can only do that in these situations in particular if you have emotional distance, if you have detachment. If you are not emotionally detached, what will happen is that a comment like that from my daughter will have you on a guilt trip. And on your guilt trip, you will have absolutely no logic left. You will accept wholeheartedly the bollocks she just fed you. Although you have done everything you possibly can for this kid, she just fed you bollocks, and you will be guilty because you consumed the bollocks. Oh no. Oh no. No, baby, no. No, you've got to be able to process and think. And you can only process and think if you learn to separate what you are receiving so that you are in a position to process effectively. But that's dissociation. You dissociate from the initial emotional response. You give yourself some detachment so that you can think things through before you react. You think things through properly before you react. But you can only do that if your emotions are not ruling. You can only do that if your head is in pole position. Well, how does your head get in pole position? When you give it some space. When you separate. When you separate the feelings, the initial feelings onslaught, from the thinking process required to come to a decision. Hopefully, my ramblings on help you. Remember, these things are not just for your benefit. This is me and my own morning rally call. Instead of waiting for rally calls from other people, no, I give myself my own rally calls. But I do it publicly so that those of you who may benefit from a rally call may get the opportunity to do so. I'll see you guys later.